And joining us now, the outstanding Neal Coolong. Sir, welcome.
As always, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, so the game with the Dolphins, it just seemed like they settled in and played a solid game on both sides of the ball. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think certainly you look at the first half, it was two teams in cold weather kind of, figuring things out, what they were going to do moving forward. And I think the Steelers stuck with what they wanted to do, but found much better execution in the second half than the Dolphins did. It didn't seem like the Dolphins at any point in the second half were really doing anything that produced any type of success. I mean, until the last two drives, which the Steelers just kind of let them walk down the field. Dolphins had something like negative 25 yards. I mean, they were getting absolutely crushed. Steelers defense moved a lot better in the second half. You have to be happy with that. And the offense kind of plodded away. They did the things they needed to do. I thought Kenneth Gainwell had a great game overall, not judging statistics, but just looking at his decisiveness, taking what he was given, which at times was pretty minimal, and he was able to make something out of it. He was able to, I think, kind of create the floor for an offense that's getting better week to week. And I think Aaron Rodgers played probably his best game of the season, looked a lot more comfortable than he has. They executed at a much higher level and seemed like they were in they were in the pocket offensively throughout that game. And I think that's a good sign for where they are in the season. It's just kind of an interesting question why it is that they got to that point is, really because the main things that you have to look at is the fact that 2 weeks ago they acquired Adam Thielen and brought Marcus Valdez-Scantling off the practice squad and played them both, and the offense picked up. Over 2 games, they have a combined 2 catches, one for a touchdown by MVS last night, which was nice and everything, but something fundamental, I think, was missing. Whether it's a wake-up call to flat-out bench Roman Wilson, to bring in veterans who have presumably a better sense of what they're doing, they're going about their work in a better way than what perhaps the offense was doing. I don't know, but they have losses on the offensive line. Amid these subtractions, it seems that the overall product has gotten better. So you have to be optimistic about what they have moving forward because things are coming together at the right time. They're in a very advantageous position in the last 3 games of this season, and that's not a totally familiar place for the Steelers within recent years. They tend to kind of back into the playoffs. They have an opportunity now to grab hold of the division and not have anything to play for in Week 18.
Right.
I don't know the last time that's happened. So you have to feel pretty good if you're Pittsburgh, and this was a big hurdle for them as far as getting to that end goal. I think they've done a great job building off what could have been a disaster and what in the past has been a disaster down the stretch, and now are finding their best football to play with 3 weeks to go.
Do the Steelers think about Alan Lazard since he's now free?
Well, the recipe of adding veteran receivers seems to have done something. That's what I mean. I mean, obviously there are myriad factors that you could look at, but you have to wonder, considering the catalyst to this seemed to be when Rodgers was asked after the game what they need to do, and whether or not he was confirming that players were skipping film study, or it was just people just not being on the same page with one another. Whatever it was, he sent a message out. The team brought in Thielen, a veteran player. Always, I think, even with a couple Pro Bowl seasons, was one of the better, if not the best, receivers away from the ball that you'll find. MVS is a pure deep threat. Look it up, interestingly enough, he's like top 20 all the time in yards per catch. Deep threat player that knows what he's doing, that knows how to read a defense. The little things came together, and it seems like it's boosted everybody else. Now, does Alan Lazard fit into that? Realistically, probably not. But you do have to, at this point, I think, call attention to the fact that the Steelers brought in not star players, barely even productive players on the field, but they're doing things within a team-led offense that are obviously needed. DK Metcalf's presence was actually established over the last 2 weeks. He was gone for 6 straight games. He didn't do anything. They're able to make bigger plays now. They are hitting throws down the field. Their offense is more dynamic, and I think the experience that they have building everybody up. It's not any one single component. It's a lot of different things. It seems like the veteran additions that they brought in have kind of, brought that out in everybody else. I don't think they would bring in Lazard, but certainly you want to bring back the 2020 Packers. That would be the move that you'd want to make. I don't think Rodgers would necessarily be against it, but I think right now what they have is looking pretty good. I wouldn't mess with it.
Yeah, so that's where they are. I have to ask you about Kenny Gainwell. He played in the Cotton Bowl, was the starter against Penn State in 19. I was like, okay, he's a good player. I mean, not a great player, but he's a good player. His level of play against Penn State didn't match his stats. And he gets to the NFL, and he finds a nice spot with the Eagles. He is, in part, a reason why they win the Super Bowl. He signs with the Steelers. And for the most part, I felt he was just another guy. I watch him with the Steelers, though. He's a couple levels above that. What do you think of Kenny Gainwell?
I'll be honest. I wouldn't say I mocked the decision to sign him, but I didn't think he was going to be the Jaylen Warren to the departed Najee Harris within that offense. I really thought Warren was going to get the bulk of the carries, or at the very least, it would be more like a 55-45. I think Gainwell has proved over the course of the season that he really is a better all-around back than Warren is. And I'm not taking anything away from Warren. I think Warren's a very good, very productive NFL player. There's no reason to get rid of him. He has his situations. There are things that he does very well. But Gainwell really impressed me last night. He really looked comfortable within the offense of what he's being asked to do. And there were some runs, I think, that he put down that Warren wouldn't have made. One example I can think of, and I was discussing this with Trey Essex in social media earlier today. Gainwell, it looked like it was inside zone. Gainwell took it about 2 yards, and there wasn't a whole lot of room forward. Guys were closing in on him. Gainwell just stopped. He didn't rush into the line. He wasn't trying to push forward and just get one more yard. He stopped. He looked at what was there and saw a crease off to his right.
Yeah.
Took a quick step and got north from that and ended up picking up 6 more yards. Gainwell has that kind of vision, and I think it's really starting to come together with their offensive line as far as the inside zone scheme is going. They've done they've put a lot of work in trying to get that to work. And I think they're starting to see the benefits of it. It's becoming much more of a weapon than it was earlier this season. And Gainwell certainly deserves a good chunk of the credit for that. Along with that, an offensive line that's improving together, even in the absence of, yesterday at least, 2 starters. Siamalo was out for a good chunk of time. They're obviously down Broderick Jones and Andrews Pete, if you want to look at it that way. They're bringing out more, I think, collectively as a unit than they probably are as individuals. But Gainwell's individual ability right now is standing out more than anything else. And he's gotten better as the season has gone on. He's going to be their guy moving forward. I really think that's where they're at. I'm not sure if Mike Tomlin spoke to that in his press conference earlier, but I would expect Gainwell to be in an even situation in a lead in the second half. Gainwell's going to be their workhorse. Again, nothing against Jaylen Warren. He definitely has a place on the team, but Gainwell's a lot to take off the field right now, and I don't think they're going to do that.
There aren't many guys where you sit back and say, well, where did he get hurt? In the game? No. Practice? No. Training room? Yep. TJ Watt. This is Tyrod Taylor all over again. How strange was that scenario?
I read it a couple times and thought, that's interesting. The first thought that I had was Jerome Bettis in the playoffs 2001. might have cost them a shot at the Super Bowl, as you might recall.
Yeah.
I think it happened prior to the AFC Championship game, a week before the AFC Championship game. Jerome Bettis was getting a shot for whatever and apparently put it in the wrong spot in his leg, and his entire right leg went numb. Wasn't really effective at all. You saw him out there. He couldn't cut. And a guy Jerome Bettis' size, if he doesn't have that quickness, he's a moving target. And he wasn't effective at all. They brought in Amos Zaraway, did enough for them in the division round that year, but the condition worsened, if anything, leading into the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, and that was the worst possible team to not have a power running option.
Yeah.
Amos Zaraway is not faster than those linebackers were, and they cut their run game completely down. The Steelers didn't have enough, and the Patriots would eventually upset the Steelers and then the Rams for their first Super Bowl. That kind of launched their dynasty. Watt not being in there had the exact opposite effect, I think, if anything. What were the Steelers, 1-10 without Watt prior to last night?
Yeah.
They didn't miss a beat. I was very impressed defensively with the cohesion of the group. Maybe not right away. A-Chain's a great runner. You saw a lot of great things from him last night. I felt Mike McDaniel, and probably one of the last games he's going to be the head coach of the Dolphins, it put together a good plan, and they were grinding it out pretty well early on. Might not have executed exactly how they wanted in the first half, but I would have thought they would have come onto the field in the third quarter with a sense of confidence about what they had and what they were able to do. The Steelers shut them down completely.
Yeah.
That was probably as dominant a defensive performance they've put on in a half this season, and it just kept rolling upon itself. You saw play after play getting made. They didn't allow anything. It wasn't takeaways. It wasn't huge sacks at huge times. It was pressure. It was tackling. It was being around everybody. They as Tomlin would probably say, they defended every blade of grass. And with that, you should have a lot of confidence moving forward, because you mentioned Watt, and certainly that's a big loss. More than anything, though, I was surprised that Derek Harmon didn't return. Yeah. And Harmon had been, in my opinion, a highly underrated catalyst to the defense up to that point. He went out. They were giving up 200-plus rushing yards a game. Last night was the first time they actually clamped down a running game, and it didn't look like it was going to go that way early. You get Harmon back, along with Watt. I think you have really your best foot to put forward defensively. Now, I couldn't probably have a worse matchup for the Steelers than the Lions, but it's no longer a must-win game for them. They have the ability to control their own destiny beyond that, which is obviously a very good thing. But Watt's presence is undeniable. He's going to be out there making plays, but a defense that was able to do that without him has to walk away from that, especially the slide that they've been on defensively. They have to walk away from last night with a lot of confidence moving into the final three games of the season.
Let me put it this way. On that field, there are fewer blades of grass to defend. That's just whatever.
Grains of sand or whatever that is.
Oh, I did a game at Indiana. It was the last game that they had grass in Memorial Stadium in Bloomington. Last game. And they've finally put artificial turf in. They've had it ever since. And Jack Kim and I walked on the field before the game, and it was sand mixed in with grass that was painted green.
Put a lot of money into the cosmetic value of the field. They're not even going to worry about the integrity of the surface anymore. They're long past that. Let's just make it look a certain way for the 500,000 people that are going to watch that game in Indiana. It just brings me back just on a personal level. My sister and brother-in-law went to Madison. And the year before they got there was the end of Wisconsin. You remember this. Wisconsin was the doormat of all of college football, let alone the Big Ten, for decades. They were terrible. They were a joke. That's always what I knew growing up. The only team the Gophers could beat was Wisconsin and Indiana, incidentally. Turns out my nephew just got accepted at Madison. And as soon as he got accepted, they didn't win a game again for 6 weeks or whatever it was. So it's kind of like the era is over, but at the same time, that spirit transfer over to Indiana, now the number one ranked team in the country. The other team that is just like I can't believe they have this good of a football team program as shockingly on the rise. I don't know if we've seen that in this era of college sports. It's pretty remarkable, but yeah, we're not that long ago. Memorial Stadium had to paint green down to make people think that there's grass on the field. We're not that far away from that era.
And Larry Johnson that day set a school record for Penn State. He ran for 327 yards on that field. So, yeah. How about that?
And knowing that guy, too, he probably didn't even break a sweat.
No.
He was a monster.
Yes,
God,
he was.
A good player.
You want to talk about a guy who had feel for, especially on kickoff returns? Oh, my goodness. His feel for it was remarkable. So they've got Detroit. Detroit needs the game. That's the part that people have to understand. Detroit needs the game this weekend. So there's plenty to play for, and a Detroit defense that is struggling.
Yeah, defensively, you knew that was going to be the challenge with them going into the season. If for no other reason than you look at their offense, it's really hard to replicate that kind of production, and maybe that works against them to a certain degree. They're as potent and as explosive an offense as there is, and sometimes that catches your defense off. They got to be on the field a lot longer.
Yes.
I think they ran out of gas against the Rams, a team that you really don't want to go throw for throw against, just because of how diverse and how creative they can be, how difficult they are to defend 11 on 11. Detroit is very similar to that, but when you trade punches with teams like that, you better be ready to score 50. And Detroit, blinked first, I think, in the second half of what was otherwise a very competitive game, and the Rams just kept their foot on the gas, just ran them out by the end. But that said, Detroit is as dangerous an opponent for anybody as there is. Their defense, is not clearly one of the top units in the league. They've lost quite a bit in the absence of Aaron Glenn. There's a lot that they still need to do to shore up that side of the ball. But when you have an offense that can throw haymakers the way they can, the Steelers got to be ready to score 30-plus at least in this game if they're going to have a chance. And I don't know if they do, to be honest, because exactly what you said, Detroit's not done yet. It's not over. You saw everybody in Green Bay go down right
Yes.
During the Lions game. They're vulnerable. Detroit has to win this game. They have to win out because they're the type of team, if they can get it together and get into the postseason, it doesn't matter where they're playing. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're very, very difficult to beat because of the potency of that offense. So they're coming to Pittsburgh with everything they've got, and that's a formidable opponent. Not to make too much of them, considering what their record is, but they can put up 41 points. And I don't know if the Steelers can do that. Their defense very well could give up that much, but I see Detroit as a big play machine against the secondary, which to Pittsburgh's credit, their secondary has come quite a long way, I think, in the last 3 weeks. As that is as difficult an opponent as they're going to be, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown back. Detroit they're a really, really tough matchup for the Steelers. So Pittsburgh really needed to beat Miami for this reason. It kind of keeps them in control, with the Ravens playing the kind of beleaguered Packers right now, still a dangerous team. And the Patriots after that. So Pittsburgh has the opportunity to, they might be able to lose the game to Detroit, beat Cleveland the following week, and clinch the division. That's possible. So for Pittsburgh, obviously, beating Detroit is a much better solution to everything, but easily the toughest opponent, I think, matchup-wise, that they'll face this season.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Appreciate it. Time just flies by with you.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me.